Hi, I'm Darnell at Wave Oven Recipes, and this is my review of the Calphalon Quartz Heat Air Fryer Toaster Oven. So let's go ahead and get it unboxed. Now I'm going to show the power cord. It's not a long power cord at all, and it's a 2-prong polarized cord, not a 3-prong with a dedicated ground wire cord. This cooker is 1400 watts according to the manufacturer. So that seems a bit low for power wattage rating, but we'll see how it performs. But that is low compared to most others if you've been familiar with reviews here on this channel. Now I'm going to basically show you the accessories that come with it. You get basically like an air fry basket type of a basket. You get a baking pan. It's like, looks like it's non-stick. And you also get a kind of like pizza rack type of wire rack. And inside, under the cooker, is a pull-out drip tray. So you got your drip pan there. And also the cooker comes with this manual here. So there's not a whole lot to the manual. It does give basically some cooking guides here in the back, just to kind of give you an idea. There are no recipes in the book here, so they don't give you any recipes at all. The temperature ranges for this cooker are 150 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And the cooker has 11 cooking functions. I'll go into all of those in detail later here. But the dimensions of the cooker are 11.6 inches in height. The width is 18.7 inches in width. And the depth is 15.8 inches in depth. I will do a dedicated, basically measuring with my own measuring later. But this pizza, as far as capacity, is supposed to be able to hold a 12-inch pizza or 6 slices of bread. They say a full family-sized chicken. They say it can hold a full family-sized chicken, but they don't give the weight. So what the weight is of a full family-sized chicken may vary depending on one's own interpretation. But I'll do the interior measurements as well so that you'll be able to tell from the interior measurements what can fit and how well. And so that basically gives you some idea of the capacity that the manufacturer gives. Now I'm going to show around the cooker. You see the front here. Here on the side you've got some vents. Same on the other side. Let's take a look around the back. Around the back there's a little bit of a hump there. And there's some vents here on the side and the back. Now I'm going to give you a closer up view of the cooker. You see here you've got a light button, you've got a start button, you've got a cancel off button, you've got a knob here for like your functions, and it also has a turbo convection button that is used on some functions. We'll get into that later. There's a time temp knob here with a button to switch between time and temp. You've got your display there. We go inside of the cooker. We only get 2 rack levels. 1, 2. That's all you get for rack levels. Down here you see 2 of your heating elements. Over here on the side, I hope that you can see inside, there's a basically like your fan over here. Putting some extra light on the inside. You can see the kind of fan apparatus in there, but I don't see a heating element over that air fryer fan. I don't see a heating element from my vantage point. Up top you see 2 more heating elements. You see over there the light, and far in the back is the ambient probe there to measure its temperature. And there's nothing on the back wall there, nothing over here on the left side. So that's a look inside the cooker. So now we have the Ninja Foodi XL Pro air fryer oven next to the Calphalon. And so now I'm going to basically do a little exterior measuring of the two to see the size differences between them. And when I go across the front here, we see the Ninja Foodi is about just under 17 inches. The Calphalon is about 18 and a half going across. And we do the front to back, and I'm going to include the hump in this up to the handle. And I've got about 19, well, sorry if you can't see, but about 19 and a half inches from front to back. Doing the same with the smaller hump on the Calphalon. Front to back to the handle is 15 inches. Now I'm going to go, let's do the height. In height wise, we see the Ninja Foodi comes up to just over 13 inches. The Calphalon is under 12 inches. So I think Calphalon's spec is pretty spot on with what they said that their measurements were. Going inside the cookers, doing a inside interior, the Ninja Foodi is just over 14 inches inside. The Calphalon inside, it's looking like it's just under 14 inches inside. The front to back, now there's a fan guard on my Ninja Foodi because I got one of the very first off the line that has the rear fan guard. Most of you won't be able to get one with a fan guard if you get a Ninja Foodi XL Pro. But front to back 12 inches with that fan guard in the way. Calphalon front to back, I'm seeing about 13 inches, like just under 13 inches, or I mean like the line is right at 13 inches, so it's like, you know, really close there on 13. Height wise, inside the Ninja Foodi, I'm getting just a little over 10 inches, maybe just a touch over 10 inches. Calphalon, I'm getting under 9 inches, over 8.5, under 9 inches there. Now I do want to test with the 13-inch bake pan. We know that this fits easily in the Ninja Foodi. And here in the Calphalon, sliding it in, we are able to fit 13-inch bake pan with no handles in the Calphalon. So that's very good. Now we have the Calphalon beside the Ninja Foodi dual heat air fry oven, the smaller model. You can see the difference right off. And I'll just do some of the quick measurements again. I won't do the 13-inch bake pan because we know it doesn't fit into this Ninja Foodi here. And so across the top we've got about just under 18 inches there on the Ninja. Again on the Calphalon we've got just under 19. Front to back on the Ninja is 13 inches. And front to back, and the Calphalon has a small hump, about 14 and a half there. The height is where of course you see a major difference with the Ninja Foodi being under 8 inches while the Calphalon is just under 12 inches. Of course the Ninja Foodi is able to flip upwards, then it's a little taller. But of course with the Calphalon you can't do the flip up thing. And inside of the Ninja Foodi dual heat air fry oven, front to back is 12 and a half inches, whereas with the Calphalon you're looking at just about exactly 13 there. And side to side in the Ninja Foodi is 13 and a half, and the Calphalon is looking like it's just about a little over 14. Ninja Foodi, top to bottom, just about 6 inches. Calphalon there, you've got over 8.5, but under 9 inches. Alright, so now I'm going to do an initial plug-in of the cooker, and we'll see what happens when we plug things in. You see in the initial plug-in there, things just start beeping and lighting up and all that good stuff. The first thing I'm going to do, now that I've got it plugged in, I just want to check what it does for toast when things are completely cool, and I'll check it later when the cooker's hot to see if maybe it adjusts time, realizing that the cooker's hot when you try toast again. So I'm just turning the setting knob up all the way to 7 on toast, and we see that it shows 12 minutes 30 seconds for toast on level 7. And that is a pretty long time to do your highest level of toast. It might be because the cooker is 1400 watts, I'm not sure. So now I've got the rack on the higher rack level with the iGrill 2 temperature probe, ambient probe in there to measure temp. And going to try and do a temperature test here. So got things closed up. Need to basically wake the cooker up, so just hit a button. And I'm going to turn things down to the air fry. So we'll set them there on air fry. And going to up that temp to the max of 450. The time I'm going to up to 30 minutes there. And going to go ahead and hit start now and let things start running like that. And it is doing a preheat, and then I guess it'll do the cooking phase, but I'm going to let it go ahead and preheat, see what my iGrill has to say as far as independent temperature check after it's done preheating, and then we'll see what it does as far as the actual cook, how things read independently. Alright, so the cooker believes it is at 450, and my independent temperature check shows, well, it was like 458, but it has gone up to 465. I didn't hear any sound from a fan or anything while it was preheating, but now that it has finished preheating, it is kicked in, well, it has kicked in that air fryer fan. I do want to check while it's running. If I hit the turbo convection on air fry, what will happen? And it seems like the turbo convection doesn't do anything on air fry because I guess it's running by default on air fry, which I just wanted to confirm. The turbo convection button you can use on some other functions that we'll talk about later. But the temperature has already rocked it up to 481 degrees. So the cooker is pretty hot right now, pretty hot. I am going to try and see how it feels some on the outside. It's hot, hot. Over here it's not as hot. And it's reading 490, well 495 here on the temperature read. Now the front is hot, I don't even want to touch it. The back feels like it's kind of hot. I don't want to leave my hand back there too long. So it's hot all over. Down here, I can set my hand down here. I'm not feeling like my hand's burning or anything. Setting it right down there. But the cooker, pretty much all around, you want to, give it safe distance and know that it's going to be hot. Now something that I guess I didn't take note of, after it finished preheating, it's been beeping. I think it's been wanting me to open the door and like put food in or hit start. But I guess you could open the door, put your food in, nothing happens. So you'd have to hit start manually. And once you hit start, then it starts counting down. So it got a little extra preheat time. It went up into the 490s and now it's down to 481. But we'll see how things do with the clock running on the cooker here. Alright, so things have been cooking now for 10 minutes through the cooking phase. The iGrill 2 has been teetering between like 449 and 455. So the cooker does, after the preheat, things get kind of crazy during the preheat, but it does regulate itself down into that 450 range and stays about steady there once things are in that cooking phase for a good long time, and it's continuing to self-regulate to keep itself in that range. I do want to check now making adjustments on the fly. So let's say that I hit time temp. Can I bring the temp down? Yeah, well, I'm not going to mess with the time. I'm just going to leave it at 425 just to, well, let's see, do I have to hit start? Well, it went, alright, it started going on its own. So I was able to change the time, well, the temp, and go down here to time, and yeah, I can change the time and the temp on the fly pretty easy, going back and forth. And I guess it beeps to let me know it locked it in. and I have to hit start. So since I changed the time, it asked me to hit start again. That's interesting. When I changed the temp, I didn't have to hit start again. But when I changed the time, I had to hit start again to get it going again. And now that it's running, I just want to check if the door will auto pause when I open. And you see I open, it doesn't auto pause. So, you know, let's see if I hit start, will allow me to pause. It won't allow me to pause by hitting start. I could hit cancel, but if I hit cancel, then things are basically going to stop on me. So that seems like there's no easy way to pause. If I hit time temp, I guess time will stop, but the fan's still going, so it's not a true pause, and it just started going again. So it doesn't look like there's any way in the cooker to truly make it pause, just if you want to get in there and do something. The timer's just going to keep going. You just have to, I guess, adjust time as you see fit. You do have a light button here. I'll just show you that real quick. You can see the light on in there, so that's pretty cool. So I'm just going to hit cancel to stop things, and once you hit cancel, you're done there. So that's pretty interesting. You see that the cooker does remember my last cook time set. It still has it up there on the screen. But let's go back to toast real quick. I'm going up to toast again, and it's still showing for shade 7 12 minutes 30 seconds. I guess if I hit start with that, oh, it actually brought itself down. So it brought itself down to 11 minutes. That's pretty good. It did recognize that things were hot and brought itself down a little bit on the time. That's cool. And so now I'm going to go back to that air fry cook again. Let's just make sure that it remembers, and it does remember still what I had in the earlier setting. So now I'm going to cancel it. I'm going to basically unplug the cooker, plug it back in, see if it remembers, and see I've got the plug out. Now I'm going to stick the plug back in, and we'll see if it still remembers what I had set. We see we lost our toast setting, and if I go down to air fry, yeah, I lost my air fry setting. So it will remember your settings as long as things are plugged in. Once you unplug it, you lose all your settings. Now I'm going to talk you through all of the settings. I will be reading from the notes while I tell you about each of the settings on this cooker. But basically the first setting is toast. You're supposed to use the upper rack setting when you use toast. You can do between shades 1, which is 1 minute 35 seconds, to 7, which is 12 minutes 30 seconds, as I mentioned earlier. Pretty interesting it takes that long for shade 7. The next setting is bagel, and on bagel you use the upper rack position 1 through 7. The times are 1 minute 35 seconds on shade 1. If you go up to shade 7, it's going to be up to 11 minutes, so a little less on the bagels there. Next setting is bake. Now on bake, you can use the lower rack position. It has a preheat on bake, just like with air fry. And the temperature ranges are 150 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. You can cook for up to an hour on bake. That's the maximum time on bake is 1 hour. Air fry, which we used earlier, upper rack position. And it says in the manual that there's no preheat, but we saw that there is a preheat on air fry. And you can cook for up to an hour. And if you need to catch drippings, you can put basically like your air fry basket on the higher rack and put underneath the wire rack with the bake pan to catch your drippings. The next setting is roast. In roast, you use the lower rack position, has a preheat 150 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit for up to 2 hours. So they give you an extra hour on roasting, even though there are some things you might want to cook for even more than 2 hours, but that's all they give you. Broil is our next setting. Broil is the upper rack position. There's no preheat, or they say there's no preheat. And 350 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, up to 2 hours. So interesting, you could go up to 2 hours on broil. So let's see, if we go into time, I mean, if you're going to be broiling for like over like 30 minutes, that's pretty interesting. So let's go on down to the next setting, which is pizza. And with pizza, you use the upper rack position, has a preheat 150 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. You can cook your pizza for up to an hour. Next is reheat. Reheat, you can use the upper or lower rack position. There's no preheat. You can cook for 150 degrees Fahrenheit. They say the max is 200 degrees Fahrenheit, which is odd. Reheat here is showing 325. The manual has a discrepancy there. So basically with reheat, I'm all the way up to 450. And I can go down to 150. So reheat does 150 to 450. Unlike what it says in the manual. Next, we're going to go down to keep warm. Keep warm, lower rack position, no preheat, 150 to 450. You can go up to an hour on your keep warm. Defrost. Defrost, you can use the upper or lower rack position, 150 degrees, 450 degrees for 1 hour. I'm not sure how defrost is necessarily going to be any different from maybe one of the others as far as functionality when the temperature ranges are basically similar, the same. You do get a lower starting point temp. Let's go on down to the next function, which is dehydrate. Dehydrate, you would use the upper rack position, has a preheat. I don't know why you need a preheat on dehydrate. Let me just see if you hit start. Yeah, it has a preheat. It's preheating. So, you know, dehydrating, you might need a preheat before you get up to 150, you know? It's kind of interesting. But you can do 150 up to 200, like they said. And actually, no, dehydrate goes down to 130. So the manual has another discrepancy there, it seems, because it said that you can do dehydrate 150 to 200, but you can do 130. And you can do, they said in the manual, up to 4 hours. I'm going to check that. No, actually it's more. So up to 12 hours. So I can do up to 12 hours on the dehydrate. And it's recommended when you're dehydrating to leave the door partially open on dehydrate. That's a pretty interesting recommendation there. And I forgot to mention, they also mention on broil. If you're going to use broil, they mention to leave the door cracked, which is interesting. They recommend that. And it seems like with the manual, there aren't discrepancies with the written manual that comes with the cooker. The discrepancies are with the manual that is available online, which I usually use as my advanced way to prepare for these cookers before I do the review, since I have to do the unboxing and all with you. So the online manual has some discrepancies, but the written manual, I've just checked and confirmed, has accurate information about the cooker in its written manual that comes with it. I do want to talk about the turbo convection button, because turbo convection you can use on some functions. So if you go to like bake and you were to, now it's doing a preheat. I'm wondering if I can skip the preheat, but I can't skip the preheat. But I can hit the turbo convection button to get the fan going there. So we know air fry, cancel that. We know air fry you can't do it. But if you go to roast, and we were to start a roast, we can control our turbo convection button on roast. But just remember, you can't turn it off on air fry. On broil, let's try it. We can play with the turbo convection there. On pizza, we can there. We'll go down to reheat, start reheat. We can play with the turbo convection button there. Keep warm, we'll just try it here. Same thing, cancel. Can we defrost with turbo convection? Yeah, you can defrost with turbo convection. That's interesting. Dehydrate, you can start there and you can do your turbo convection there if you want. So basically turbo convection is for bake, roast, broil, pizza, reheat, keep warm, and dehydrate. Now something I wanted to show you, when you're doing air fry and you want to catch drippings and you've got that rack underneath, of course you can't fit the bake pan right there like on this level. What you do is you slide the bake pan underneath, and the wire rack has little hooks underneath to allow you to put the bake pan underneath to catch drippings while you're doing air frying in your air fry basket. That's pretty neat. Alright, so the cooker is totally and completely cooled down now, and I've got a couple slices of my almond flour whole wheat bread here. As you can see, they're pretty large, and so I'm going to put those up on, and I used a high rack level for toasting. I'm going to put those up here, and almond flour whole wheat bread takes a lot more effort to toast than regular bread, especially that stuff you get from the store. It takes longer than even regular homemade, let's say, wheat or white bread. But we're going to go ahead and wake the cooker up, and I am going to try shade 7. I don't know if I'm going to leave it in that whole time, but just want to see what happens. It says it's going to do 12 minutes 30 seconds. I've never seen that before in a cooker, that much time needed to toast on even the highest setting. But just let's see what happens. I'm going to hit start, and I'll bring you back. So it's been toasting for 8.5 minutes now. I'm going to stop it now. So just hitting cancel there. And after 8.5 minutes, you can see this bread is very well toasted. This would usually be about 7 in most any toaster that I would put this bread in. This would be a 7. And it still is going to go for about another 4 minutes of toasting. So even though it has a very long toast time for the highest setting, you will definitely burn your bread up if you let it go that far. So you're definitely going to want something well under 7 for your bread. Alright, so what I'm putting together here are some lemon almond flour cookies from scratch, and I will flash the recipe on the screen, but if you want to see this done in full from beginning to end, I did these in the Ninja Foodi XL Pro Grill and Griddle, and in that grill and griddle is Smart Grill and Griddle. I did this recipe in full from beginning to end with all the ingredients and showing you how everything goes. And you can see that in full detail here, but just to move this particular review along, I'm just showing you briefly on the screen the recipe and basically just finishing up getting it together here. And I've got the bake pan here, and I've sprayed some extra light olive oil on it so that I don't really want my cookies sticking at all. Of course, it looks like it's a non-stick surface, but still all the same. I like to spray the surface with a little of my extra light olive oil just to make sure that my cookies won't be sticking to the bottom at all. So I'm just going to finish mixing up my mix here, and then I'm going to get 12 cookies laid out in the bake pan. And since the cooker does have a preheat before I do get those cookies laid out, I'm going to go ahead and start it doing its preheat thing, so turning down to bake. And for the temperature, I'm going to leave it at 350. For the cooking time, I'm going to need about, or I should need about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to set it to 20. Since it's doing a full preheat, maybe it'll only need 15. We will see. But hitting start with that, and while it preheats, I'll get my cookies laid out. Alright, the preheat is done. Got my cookies set up. As some of you know, I'm not the kid who got A in art class, so yours will look prettier than mine. I've got the wire rack on the lowest rack level, well, the lower rack level, there's only 2. But we got things in, hit start. We'll let those cook, and I'll bring you back. Alright, so I've let the cookies go for the full 20 minutes. You can see how they look in there, and I'm going to go ahead and get them out now. But they look pretty nice to me. 20 minutes, didn't really, ooh, touch the bottom there, a little hot. But you can see they turned out looking pretty good to me. Touching the tops, they are cooked all the way through, I can feel that. And I just want to try and just show the underside of one, see how they cooked underneath. Let's see. Under the bottom, You see they got really brown on the bottom. The tops did not get overcooked at all. So I'm just going to get them all out, get them all plated here, and just give them a moment to cool down. So now that I've given the cookies a little time to cool off, I'm going to go ahead and taste test one of them here. I'll just grab this one here. There you see. They should have had some water. Almond flour cookies, they are a little dense. That's the way they are, but they turned out good. They taste good. And so the cooker baked them up well. It did a good job baking. So now I'm going to try an air frying test with these boneless, skinless chicken breast halves. And I'm going to season them up. I'm going to use some extra light olive oil on them. I've also got some ranch seasoning that I'm going to use, as well as some hickory smoked sea salt. So I'm going to go ahead and oil and season up both sides of them now. Now that I've got things all seasoned up, I'm going to be using the iGrill 2 meat probes to track the temperature of each one of these chicken breasts. So I'm going to get these meat probes into each of the chicken breast halves now. And with all the wiring in place now, I'm going to go ahead and get the cooker warmed up. So I'm going to switch down to air fry. I'll leave it at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to switch the time up to 30 minutes. Maybe it'll need that long. We'll see. But going to hit start, let things preheat, and then we'll get the chicken on in. Got the air fry basket here. I'll get that in on the rack that's the highest rack. I've already got the wire rack down there with the bake pan underneath to catch drippings. Alright, things are preheated, so going to, it looks like we got a little smoke coming out of there. I'm not sure why. Maybe some pieces of cookies. I didn't clean things yet, although you're supposed to clean after every use. I didn't clean after the cookies. I think there's some crumbs that are causing a little smoke, but you got things closed up. Hit start there. I'm going to let things run, and I'll bring you back. So things have been cooking along for 24 minutes now, and basically I've got things set up from left to right with the temperatures. So the one furthest to the left is at 139 degrees Fahrenheit. The next one going over is at 156, so it's almost done. But I'm going to leave them all in there till they're all done. You know, if one overcooks, it's not the end of my world. The one furthest to the right is just 119, so it's very low. It's a larger one. And I may have to pull some early, you know, at that rate, because the one furthest to the right is so far different from the other two. But I do think I'm going to leave the first two in until at least they're done. And then the third one, I don't know, it's so far below, I may just have to leave that one in longer. But I do think I'm going to need some more time for sure. So I'm adding some more time in here. And so I'm just going to add another like 15, well, another 20 minutes. So basically it'll be a total of 45 minutes time that I gave things overall, because there were like another about 5 minutes left or so, and added another like 20 minutes, and they had already gone for about 25 minutes. So about 45 total now, if things went the full time that I have remaining. But all the same, we've gone almost 30 minutes now, and we're going to let things keep going. I guess, like I said, when the first two over here are over 165, I'll pull these two. And this last one that's at 123, he's so far behind, I think I'll just have to leave them, even though I would like to just leave them all till they're all done. You know, I don't want to leave them, you know, the other two till they're just like burnt crispy or anything like that. So bring them back in a minute. So I've let things cook for about 35 minutes total now, and the one furthest to the left is now at 169, the middle is 185, far right is at 151, and I guess I could go in there and take two of them out. The cooker has no pause feature, so I need to do it while things are continuing to run, which is kind of hokey, but I'm going to go ahead and try it. So I'll just get this one off, throw him on the cutting board, get this one off. Likewise, throw him on the cutting board, close things back up. I'm going to take this big one that's on the side here, just slide it over into the middle. Maybe that'll help it, I don't know, move along. But we'll leave these other two, let them rest and hang out while this, well, let me get these probes out of these so that they aren't still being tracked. So we've got the one that's still in there is at 152. Lord willing, won't take too much longer. But we'll let it continue for now, and I'll bring you back. Alright, so I let that last one go to full 45 minutes total. Its temperature is 168, just went up to 169, but just figured I'd leave it in the whole time, let it finish its time out in there. So here it is. I didn't flip anything over. I chose not to flip anything, so that's how it looks on the other side. And so we've got one that is finally finished, that big one, and the other two that have been hanging out for a while, so they should already be like fully reabsorbed with juices and all. So I'll go ahead and cut into one of the two that's been hanging out for a while, and this bigger one, we'll just let that sit there. I'll cut into this larger one of the two here, and we'll see inside of it. You see inside there, things look pretty moist. Just going to take a little piece off the edge here and do a quick taste, thank God for this chicken. It's super moist. Super moist. I mean, super duper moist. So, really wasn't even like it air fried, it was really more like it roasted. I mean, it definitely tastes like roasted chicken more than air fried. But I guess with the rack under the bottom, you're not going to get things, circulating a lot underneath. But it's okay. With these chicken breasts, things turn out real nice and moist. That's really good. So it cooked up really nice as far as the chicken is concerned. I do want to quickly talk to you about cleaning the cooker so that you know how to clean things up. Basically, you just want to use a warm, syrupy rag, wipe things down, and then just use a damp one to wipe off any excess. All the rack accessories can go on the top rack of the dishwasher. I prefer to wash everything by hand personally. The crumb tray, you're supposed to wash that by hand. Alright, so let's talk about the warranty. According to the manual that came in the box with the cooker, it has a 3-year limited warranty. So that's pretty good. Now, as far as this cooker, you can get a referral link in the video description. Nothing in this video is sponsored. So you'll pay the same price through that referral link that you would always pay through that seller, but you help this channel. Also, you can, in the video description, there's other ways to help the channel, such as donations, memberships, merch, my cookbook. The cookbook, a lot of those recipes will work with different cookers. A lot of them will probably work in the Calphalon. So I do hope that you did enjoy this full review of the Calphalon, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, share the video with a friend, leave your comments, subscribe, hit that notification icon, and good eating.